Ministry of Health to take over the Neville Fernando Teaching Hospital. GMOA strike inconvenience patients in hospitals across the island. MB Mahaweera granted bail. 3 dead and 700 hospitalized following food poisoning in Ampara. Minister Sajid promises to solve the veterans' housing issue in the next 4 years. US launches missile strikes in Syria.
Hello there, very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News. We are coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studio here in Colombo. I'm Stephanie Lazarus.
And I'm Krishan Devasagam. Let's now take a look at those stories in detail.
The vote of condolence for late Sri Wickremesinghe took place in Parliament today.
If you look at the Wickremesinghe family, he was a great leader who entered politics and sacrificed all his family wealth. He was not party to lining one's pockets using political power. He did not engage in fraud, waste, corruption and misuse of state funds. He did not tarnish his political career and engage in political campaigns selling off his personal property. Sri Wickremesinghe is an example for making political sacrifices. Mr. Speaker, he always condemned fraud, corruption, waste and abuse of power. Not only that, he was true to his words. I seek permission to make a point. When my father was imprisoned under Naxtal charge, it was Chandrika Bandaranaike who visited lawyers in the pouring rain while carrying a child. Some said that I could obtain various benefits using my father's position as Prime Minister. I did not ask anything from my father because I know how my father behaves and because I also knew what his answer would be.
In more news from the Parliament now, attention was drawn today to losses suffered by the government due to the importation of rice from September 2014 to February 2015.
The Auditor General's report points out that due to the importation of 257,559 metric tons of rice during this period, the government suffered a loss of over 15.15 billion rupees. Cabinet approval has been given disregarding and procurement process have also been disregarded. The importation of rice has had a great impact on the farmers of the agricultural sector. Cabinet approvals granted to import 50,000 metric tons in consignments of 5,000 metric tons each. However, they imported 50,000 metric tons in one go.
නමුත් අපේ account එකට 2014 15 ජනවාරි කියලා කතාවක් කිව්වනේ ඔබ 14 සැප්තැම්බර් සිට 2015 පෙබරවාරි දක්වා කියලා තේරෙන සිංහලෙන් කිව්වා.
7 new SLFP electorate organisers for the Kurunegala district and 4 new SLFP district organisers were given appointment letters by President Maithripala Sirisena this evening.
Minister Anura Priyadarshini Yapa has been appointed as the organizer of the Katugampally electorate and will also serve as the SLFP Kurunegala district leader. State Minister TB Ekanayake has been appointed electorate organizer for Yapawa and Shanta Bandara takes over activities in Dambadeniya. The rest of the new electorate organisers are as follows. Former Chief Minister Athula Wickremesinghe for Kuliyapitiya, Deputy Minister Tharunath Basnayaka for Galgamuwa, Nimal Wickremesinghe for Dodamgas Landa, Upul Priyantha for Mawatakama, Upulangani Malagamuwa, Nilantha Supun Rajapaksa, SM Safras and Sarat Ratnayaka for the Kurunegala district.
Newsfirst Zulfiq Farzan brings us a report on the proceedings of Day 29 of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry.
Ranjit Rodrigo, the Director of Domestic Operations at the Central Bank, provided evidence before the Commission today. He testified that on the morning of the 3rd of March 2016, former Governor Arjuna Mahendwan had instructed him over the phone to stop the injection of liquidity through reverse repurchase agreements. He said that despite informing Mahendwan that the interest corridor would see an increase, the former governor did not change his mind. He revealed the following morning that interest rates did increase and informed the governor that it was better to have the auctions. Thereafter, former Governor Arjuna Mahendwan had reinstated the reverse repurchase agreement auctions. He also revealed of a request made by CEO of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Kasun Palisena, in relation to a split of securities following the ILF default and a gridlock. Rodrigo said he called the governor over the matter and Arjuna Mahendran had asked him to independently decide on the matter. Mahendran had highlighted to Rodrigo his involvement with Perpetual Treasuries Limited. Rodrigo says that the IT department ruled that a resolution on the matter was not possible because there was no gridlock but a matter on delivery versus payment. The absence of former governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Arjuna Mahendran, to observe the recording of evidence was a notable feature at the Presidential Commission today. Meanwhile, the recording of evidence from Ranjit Rodrigo was completed today. In lieu of the Sinhala and Tamil New Year and in lieu of the court vacation granted for the judiciary, the Commission will once again convene on the 24th of April. This is after the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. From the Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to investigate and inquire into the Treasury bond issuance, I'm Zulfiq Farzan for News First.
Meanwhile, bail was granted to MP Mahaweera, who was in remand custody on the charge of misusing state vehicles.
Vimal Veeravansa was released on a cash bail of 50,000 rupees and two sureties worth 500,000 rupees each. Colombo Fort Magistrate Lanka Charatna banned all foreign travel and ordered the parliamentarian's passport be handed over to court. MP Vimal Veeravansa was remanded on the 10th of January on the charge of misusing 37 state vehicles while he served as the Minister of Housing and Construction and thereby defrauding the state a sum of 91.8 million rupees. Police investigations revealed that Veeravansa had provided the said vehicles to his sister, brother-in-law, active supporters of the National Freedom Front, as well as staff members who did not have access to state vehicles. Even though the MP had requested for bail on a number of prior occasions, the request had been rejected by the courts. Thereafter, Vimal Veeravansa, who commenced a hunger strike from prison, was transferred to the Colombo National Hospital. Vimal Veeravansa was produced in courts today after arriving aboard an ambulance amidst tight security from prison officials. Meanwhile, a group of supporters of Vimal Veeravansa arrived at the court complex today.
National newspapers had reported that Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe had instructed legal counsels not to oppose bail being granted to Vimal Veeravansa.
It is reported that the Prime Minister was involved in your matter.
There were reports that the Prime Minister had instructed legal counsels with regard to my bail application. If that is true, there is a question on the independence of the judiciary. If the judiciary is independent, there can be no provisions for statements to be made like that. We must ask the Prime Minister whether the judiciary is in fact independent.
Bail is granted by court, so how can the Prime Minister make such a statement? Charges are filed by the police or the respective branch of law enforcement. So granting bail is decided by court. When asked why charges are not filed against these persons, the government says it will take time. The question is, has the rule of law fallen to a level where the Prime Minister dictates the rulings?
Vimal Veeravansa is a friend. Court must have not ruled on the fast. If bail was granted based on the fast, then every other inmate would start fasting. This is a judicial matter. Therefore, the government cannot intervene.
Hasn't the Prime Minister told not to oppose the granting of bail?
I saw in the media that the Prime Minister had made such a statement. We will not intervene in the bail process. We are at the stance that the judiciary must be independent. Newspapers have reported that the Prime Minister has instructed the legal counsels to conclude all charges against Vimal Veeravansa before the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. The report suggests that the Prime Minister had instructed the councils to not oppose granting bail for Veeravansa. The newspaper quoting a senior minister reports that after the Prime Minister had given the instruction, the councils had created an environment where Vimal Veeravansa would be granted bail for the Sinhala Tamil New Year. Earlier, views were expressed in Parliament that when Vimal Veeravansa was arrested for the possession of a fake passport, the Prime Minister had intervened to seek his release.
You're watching Primetime News on News First, and in another headline-making story this evening, 3 persons have died and another 700 hospitalized in a serious case of food poisoning following an event in Irakkamam, Ampara. The Eastern Province Director of Health Services said that samples from the patients have been sent to the government analyst in Colombo.
Over 700 persons are receiving treatment in 5 hospitals across the Eastern Province as a result of food poisoning. Among them are children and expectant mothers. A majority of the patients are being treated at the Irankaman Hospital.
Hours after eating, I vomited, so I came to the hospital. 6 persons from my family came here after we all got the same symptoms. Thereafter, we were told about the food poisoning. I felt uneasy. I vomited and fainted. I was rushed to the hospital.
Doctors from several areas in the Eastern Province have been called in the Irankaman Hospital. The hospital has been overwhelmed with patients and some have been transferred to the Akrepattu, Kalmuni and Samanthre hospitals. We summoned doctors from other areas. Persons who have suffered food poisoning have admitted themselves in hospital out of fear. We hope to bring the situation under control. Director of the Health Services of the Eastern Province said he expects the samples from the government analyst in the coming 2 days. He said the condition of the in-house patients is not serious.
The island-wide medical strike that has been carried out by the JMOA has put many in turmoil as the patients have to face the consequences of the strike action. We have more details coming up later on the bulletin, but before that, let's go into this story. That is, media reports have emerged today that Sri Lanka is preparing to enter into a new agreement with India with regard to the Trincomalee oil tank farm. The reports noted that following discussions between President Maithripala Sirisena and the Indian High Commissioner, a decision was taken to lease out the oil tank farm for joint development with India.
Like in 2003, the whole tank farm was given, leased out to India. But this was Indian government consented to the request by the Sri Lankan government to give 10 out of that to Sri Lankan government and also to jointly develop. The balance, retaining only 14 of the tanks with them, can be interpreted as a victory for Sri Lanka, because what was leased out to India in 2003 will be developed as a joint venture subsequent to this acquisition. The 10 tanks that the CPC will be given buffer stocks, because presently we have buffer stocks only for maximum of 15 days in this country. So, and also in order to cater to the crisis situation, like for instance presently there is a drought, so we have to increase our imports of oil to supply to the power plant. So in order to facilitate such situation, we will be storing, and the joint venture between the two countries will show buffer stocks, and we will be able to, as a joint venture, supply to neighboring countries in order to fulfill their requirements. We will be able to supply from here to India, to Maldives, Bangladesh and to various other countries depending on their requirements. There isn't such a storage facility in this region.
The first consignment of rice from Pakistan, which is being provided as a gift to the drought-affected people of Sri Lanka, was officially handed over today.
Pakistan has pledged to provide a total of 10,000 metric tons of rice to Sri Lanka to mitigate the drought situation in the country. President Maithripala Sirisena as well as Pakistani High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, General Saeed Shakil Hussain, were present at the occasion to hand over the first stock of rice. Early in February 2017, the government of Pakistan dispatched a relief flight to Colombo containing 25 metric tons of rice for the drought-affected people.
The government of Sri Lanka approached us that there is a drought and they need assistance in terms of rice particularly and some other things. So we have immediately responded with 10,000 metric tons of rice, out of which 8,500 metric tons has already come down and another 1,500 metric ton is coming in a day or two. So that was the donation that government of Pakistan has extended for the people and government of Sri Lanka. And as soon as Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was informed of this, he immediately sanctioned this and sent it for the brotherly country of Sri Lanka. Our relations, are so good, and there's such a huge respect for both countries mutually. There was a requirement, Pakistan responded.
The Ministry of Higher Education and Highways issuing a release says that it will initiate proceedings to bring the Neville Fernando Teaching Hospital under the ministry and will continue its functions as a teaching hospital.
The release further reads that SITEM students who have already passed the final MBBS examination will be given a further period of clinical training in surgery, medicine, gynecology and obstetrics, physiatry and pediatrics, 1 month each in duration at the Homagama and Avisavella hospitals. Subsequent to this training, candidates will undergo mandatory examination conducted for granting provisional registration under the joint supervision of the Sri Lanka Medical Council and the University Grants Commission. Further, the release issued by the Ministry of Higher Education and Highways reads that the ministry will gazette the minimum standards for medical education in Sri Lanka submitted by the Sri Lanka Medical Council with the approval of the Attorney General. The government has taken the following decisions on the SITEM issue subject to the judgment of the Court of Appeal and the subsequent appeal to the Supreme Court as sought by the Sri Lanka Medical Council. Patients who sought medical treatment at hospitals were severely inconvenienced today as a result of the island-wide strike action carried out by the government doctors. The doctors commenced this 24-hour strike against private medical colleges.
The Government Medical Officers Association informed that the number of trade unions attached to the health sector are supporting the strike action. The GMOA, the Government Dental Surgeons Association, the Ayurvedic Doctors Association and the Veterinarian Doctors have joined the strike action. Newsfirst cameras also captured the situation at several hospitals today.
My hands hurt and they say that there is a strike. Doctors are considered to be a group of responsible persons. The patients are innocent.
It is the poor that is affected badly owing to this strike.
We come here to obtain medicine because we are helpless. My due dates are on the 14th. I am scared. I came to check on my baby's condition. I am helpless.
Why
do they do this to us innocent patients? We came for the clinic.
I was in hospital for almost 1.5 months and today I came for the clinic. But there is no doctor. I want to hit them with this rotten egg. We came all this way to obtain medicine. We are helpless.
These doctors are waiting to go to private hospitals and check on those patients. They engage in strikes for everything, even when they cannot admit their children to schools. There was an incident where they prescribed the wrong medicine. That girl lost her life. It is not fair by us to be treated like this. Doctors are treated like gods in this country. So it is doctors like this who undertake such activities. They live on our money and make us suffer.
I am here from morning. I am helpless. What these doctors are doing is 100% wrong. I think they must be happy if we die. This is not fair. They get paid through our tax money. Why do they treat us like this? I am really sick. Why do they do this to us?
We hand over a patient with hope that they will be cured and not to end up in the morgue.
The Government Medical Officers Association had convened a press briefing today. The GMOA has to take a decision as to whether we are on the side of the patients or on the side of the politicians. They do not listen to what we have to say. We urge all these groups that are engaged in this strike action, please do not hurt the innocent people. People have been inconvenienced because of the dengue virus. Another fever is also spreading, causing respiratory issues. The people are severely inconvenienced. Do not make the people have their backs against the wall. Resolve your demands through dialogue with the government. Please do not prey on the innocent people and do not hold them as bait.
Remaining on the same subject, Minister SB Disanayake shared these thoughts on the developments surrounding private medical colleges.
If the students of private medical colleges are to be allowed to sit for examinations, and if those examinations are supervised by the Sri Lanka Medical Council and the University Grants Commission, the UGC must ensure that those examination papers will be marked by a panel of unbiased lecturers. The Sri Lanka Medical Council is biased. The present registrar of the SLMC had served in Saitam and enrolled his child to Saitam through a scholarship. He attempted to fraudulently move his child from the 4th batch to the 5th batch, producing false documents. After his child was expelled from Saitam, he joins with the SLMC with an anger over Saitam. The Sri Lanka Medical Council has become a group that causes issues to the students of Saitam. These are the actions of ruffians and thieves. Therefore, if Saitam agrees to the developments that have arisen, they must ensure that everything is done in an unbiased manner. The GMOA cannot intervene, but there are some persons from the GMOA in the SLMC.
This dramatic gesture may, yet again, draw the US into a long and messy engagement in the Middle East.
Coming back to news here at home now, an Indian Coast Guard ship paid a courtesy call to the Colombo harbour recently. The ship ICGS Shur faced a new challenge of dousing a fire that erupted aboard a cargo ship one day after it docked in Colombo.
Indian Coast Guard ship Shur was commissioned to service on the 11th of April 2016. With the latest equipment on board, the ICGS Shur has faced many challenges since it began its mission.
I am currently standing on ISTS Shur, the Indian Coast Guard vessel. According to the captain of the ship, while the fire was ongoing, while the fire was raging, this ship had been about 30 meters close to where the fire was, trying to douse the fire from the latest technology that is aboard this Indian Coast Guard vessel.
With a crew of 105, including 12 officers, ICGS Shur is one of the biggest ships possessed by the Indian Coast Guard Department. Dousing the fire aboard MSC Daniela was the first fire extinguishing mission that the crew aboard Shur had to undertake. Shur had used 1,000 tons of water per hour for over 48 hours to douse the fire, while the pumps had been remotely operated. Using a thermal imaging camera, the crew had been able to identify the locations where the water needed to be directed to. The Shur, along with the vessels of the Sri Lanka Navy and the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, had been extremely close to the vessel that was on fire.
At the first instant, though safety was also always back of the mind whenever we go for such kind of operation. But our main charter is that if we would have not been able to douse the fire in time, there was a danger to the ship. And the container would have fallen overboard. Then that would have blocked the passage to the Colombo harbour, because the vessel was on about 13 nautical miles from the Colombo lighthouse. And we had very good support from the Sri Lankan Navy and Sri Lankan Coast Guard. They were very forthcoming, and all the crew which were ashore, they were called immediately, and the relentless help was provided by Indian High Commission Office as well as Sri Lankan Navy Office.
ICGS Shur is 105 meters in length and has the ability to carry a multi-role helicopter aboard for rescue operations.
The 24th Udagammana project in Galwaver, Hamathura was vested in the public today by Minister of Housing and Construction Sajith Premadasa.
The Udagammana, which was named Satmithugama, consists of 25 houses which were constructed with the low-interest housing loans from the National Housing Development Authority.
We inquired into the number of war veteran families that do not have a home. I am ashamed to say that the figure stands at around 3,650. During the last cabinet meeting, the President and I handed in a joint cabinet paper to ensure that these families receive a home within the next 4 years. I am very happy to state that the Treasury has allocated 3.19 billion rupees for this purpose.
Rupial laksha 31,920 salli Mahabandagaren Yahapalen Virodara Ranil Wickremesinghe Mamboham Satubin Prakasha Karana.
Two Deputy Inspector Generals of Police, that is DIG Ajit Rohana and DIG Priyantha Jayakodi, discussed the services of the Police Department on the Newsline program this morning.
What I want to tell you is that we on behalf of the chairman and the directors and management of our group and Team News First, thank you very much for keeping us safe and for keeping our roads safe and for providing us with the ability to lead a happier life. And we really do appreciate the efforts of the police department. Thank you very much, or the Sri Lanka police actually. Thank you. But what do you say about the police? What is your message to people?
We urge the citizens of this country to help us by providing all the information and the assistance to uplift the service of Sri Lanka police to do more and effective policing in this country.
And DIG Ajit Rohana, if you can we finish off with you? What do you have to say?
Yes, actually Sri Lanka police deal with all the issues in respect of all Sri Lankans from their birth to the death. So therefore, every time, please consider police as a friend, not an enemy.
Well, with that, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News.
It was a pleasure having you with us. I'm Krishan Devasagayam.
I'm Stephanie Lazarus. Have yourself a great weekend.